You won't believe the tea we're spilling today. From secret breakups to shocking lies, this is Unreal Tea. Hit subscribe before the drama starts. Welcome, everyone. It was to be another serene, well-rehearsed PR photo op. A picture-perfect garden picnic lunch for Kody Brown, Robyn, and her children. Designed for TLC cameras to rebuild some of the decaying trust in the Brown family. But what went down that afternoon was so incendiary, it never made air. And appropriately so. Because what ensued off-camera altered everything. It wasn't a lunch. It was the implosion the fans never anticipated. Behind the dimmed lights and staged smiles, the garden shoot was supposed to demonstrate harmony, a last-ditch effort to restore the public image after the fans started noticing growing tension between Kody, Robyn, and the rest of the family. But rather than healing scars, it blew the lid off years of suppressed hurt. Dayton, Robyn's oldest son, who has long struggled with the pressures of public life, finally reached a breaking point. As producers tried to fit him into the scene, he snapped. He yanked off his mic, his hands shaking. "Don't film me," he shouted, pacing wildly. "She's being poisoned. All of us are. You're destroying us." Then, in a moment that would rattle the entire production team, Dayton lunged. One of the crewmen was pushed to the floor. Blood was spilled. There were screams. People stood rooted in place. But Kody, far from rushing over to soothe his son or assist the injured, he blew up, shouting at the crew, accusing them of causing the commotion. That was it. The silence that ensued was oppressive. Within a couple of hours, TLC entered into full-blown crisis mode. Executives barricaded themselves in the Burbank office, shocked. The garden shoot was not only a PR fiasco, it had become a legal and medical crisis. The atmosphere in the conference room was somber. Julia Wright, the executive producer who had stood by the Browns during scandals, breakups, and fan outrage, was finished out. Her words were biting and conclusive. "Kody, we're not covering for your ego anymore. One of our crew is in the hospital. This show was about a family. Now it's about chaos." And with that, after over a decade of being the face of Sister Wives, Kody Brown was cut off. In Flagstaff again, Kody sat alone. His home office was a museum of memories he didn't need anymore. Family portraits glared back like specters. Costly leather chairs gathered dust. And Kody? Kody did not speak. He did not move. He gazed at nothing. When Robyn walked in later that night, she found him half-slouched in his chair, a whiskey bottle tipped beside him, the man she once called her rock now unraveling at the seams. His voice was low, but his panic was deafening. "They assassinated me. They killed my legacy." But for the first time ever, Robyn didn't reach out to comfort him. She crossed her arms. Her voice was calm, but ice cold. "No, Kody, you murdered your legacy." And it was done. It was over. She wasn't saying anything else. She was making a statement. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't making excuses. She wasn't going back. "I'm taking Dayton. We're leaving for St. George. Don't call. Don't try to spin this into another redemption arc. Don't follow us." She didn't blink. She didn't hesitate. Kody leapt up, crazed-eyed, stunned, frantic. "Are you abandoning me too?" But she didn't respond. She didn't have to, because the only person who had stood up for him when everyone else abandoned him, the only wife still standing with him when Christine, Janelle, and Meri had departed, was finally through as well. And she was taking with her the one person Kody had let down most, her son. And like that, Kody Brown was no longer family head. He was a man, alone, surrounded by quiet, tormented by all the errors he had promised himself he would never commit, far away from the ruins. Meri Brown had kept quiet for too long. For more than a decade, she acted out the part, the faithful wife, the reliable one, the unobtrusive support. She had soaked up the emotional hurt, swallowed pride, and suffered humiliation upon humiliation, all for a man who didn't give anything in return. But something had changed, and this time there was no turning back. Or maybe it was watching her own story erased, one too many times while Robyn's version played on loop. Either way, Meri had had enough. And this time, she wasn't just stepping away. She was stepping into the spotlight. What started as a private memoir kept under lock and key for years transformed into something explosive. A six-part confessional series, raw, emotional, and completely unfiltered. And TLC, desperate to salvage a crumbling franchise, gave her the green light. No script, no editing, just Meri and the truth. The first episode dropped like a bomb. Meri sat in a small studio just outside Salt Lake City, calm but visibly worn. She faced the camera, her back straight, her voice steady. "They told my story for years," she said. "Now I'm telling it myself." And then came the gut punch. Robyn had secured a secret deal with TLC as early as season 8, guaranteeing extra pay for emotionally intense episodes that featured her children were fed into her carefully crafted victim image. Meri's pain was real, and it was finally being seen. She talked about the time they completely cut her grief recovery segment from an episode. She had poured her heart out. It never aired. Meanwhile, Robyn's scenes ran long. That was the moment Meri admitted when she realized the narrative was rigged. Social media exploded. Clips of her confession flooded TikTok and Reddit. Fans were stunned, hurt, furious. The woman they once thought was passive was now the truth teller. The audience wasn't just watching, they were rallying. And with that first confessional, Meri didn't just reclaim her story, she flipped the entire narrative. Just when it looked like the entire Sister Wives empire might collapse under the weight of scandal, betrayal, and broken trust, TLC did something nobody expected. They handed the reins over to the very women who had been sidelined for years. Meri, Christine, and Janelle were no longer the supporting cast in Kody Brown's spiraling narrative. They became the leads. And just like that, the franchise was reborn under a new name. Sister Wives Reclaimed. This wasn't just a rebrand, it was a revolution. The shift in tone, in focus, in power, it was undeniable. These women weren't just surviving anymore. They were telling the truth, building businesses, raising their children, and finally living for themselves. The message was loud and clear. This was no longer Kody's story. It was theirs. Then came the billboard, right in the heart of Times Square, towering over the city. There she was, Meri Brown, wind in her hair, arms crossed, defiant. The text was simple, unforgettable. The real wife, Meri Brown. She's done waiting. The internet lit up. Viewers flooded back. Ratings spiked. For the first time in years, people weren't tuning in to watch the breakdown. They were here for the breakthrough. Meanwhile, Kody vanished. No more on-camera rants. No more long-winded monologues about loyalty and betrayal. His podcast fizzled out after just a few episodes. His YouTube channel shut down in less than a week. Comments were turned off. The audience wasn't listening anymore. And honestly, he didn't seem to have much left to say. Robyn stayed quiet. No statements, no interviews, nothing but silence. Dayton, her son, started therapy and kept a low profile. The house, once filled with production crews and family tension, grew eerily still. What was once the center of the Brown family drama now felt like a ghost town. But in that silence, the women's voices rose louder than ever. Sister Wives. Reclaimed wasn't just a title, it was a promise. Justice had finally arrived. After years of living in the shadow of family drama and constant media scrutiny, Janelle Brown finally found a fresh start. And she didn't just take it, she owned it. Post-pandemic, Janelle made a bold decision to leave behind the familiar chaos and build something just for herself. She moved to North Carolina, far away from the storms of Flagstaff, and began laying the foundation for a new chapter. Literally, Janelle built her own home, a symbol of her independence and resilience. No cameras, no interference, just the quiet strength of a woman reclaiming her life. But it wasn't just about the house. Janelle launched several new business ventures, exploring everything from wellness coaching to interior design. She wasn't just trying to survive anymore, she was thriving. The final piece of the puzzle was the official split of Coyote Pass, the family's sprawling estate. Where once the land was a symbol of tangled loyalties and power struggles, now it was divided clearly. Janelle walked away not only stronger in spirit, but also with her finances secure. It was a clean break that spoke volumes about her determination to protect herself and her future. In 2025, Janelle made a public vow that resonated deeply with her fans to eliminate toxicity from her life. This wasn't an empty promise or a passing mood. She stuck to it, distancing herself from drama, cutting ties with negative influences, and focusing fully on healing and growth. Janelle's journey proves something powerful. She's not just surviving the fallout of a fractured family. She's thriving beyond it. She's a woman who took control, planted new roots, and built a life that's truly her own. That kind of transformation, it's inspiring, real, and exactly what Sister Wives fans needed to see. Robyn and Cody's shift toward monogamy, the very thing that seemed to promise stability, soon became a trap. What had been sold as a fresh start for their relationship quickly became an isolated, controlling existence where everything seemed centered around their needs, leaving little room for the wider family. At first, the viewers saw it as a long-awaited escape from the complex web of plural marriage, but as the months wore on, it became clear that the reality was far darker than what had been painted. Cody, no longer the patriarch of a multi-wife household, grew more possessive, and Robyn, despite being the woman closest to him, seemed to lose the power she thought she had gained. Robyn's victim complex, which had been a consistent theme throughout her time on the show, only grew. She presented herself as misunderstood, a mother who was fighting for her family, a woman who had sacrificed everything to create this vision of love. But cracks began to appear when the stark differences in treatment between her children and Cody's other kids became undeniable. A stark example was Isabel's surgery, which was met with an outpouring of support from fans and Cody himself. But Dayton's struggles, though just as real, were often brushed aside, ignored, or minimized. Fans quickly noticed, and it didn't sit well with them. Why was Isabel's pain treated as paramount while Dayton's emotional collapse barely got acknowledgement? It was this subtle yet profound double standard that made Robyn's relationship with Cody appear more fragile than ever. As the public began to see the dynamic between them for what it was, one based on control rather than love, Robyn's standing in the family began to waver. Her children, who had once been close to their siblings from Cody's other marriages, grew increasingly distant. They were forced into roles they hadn't chosen, and the divide between them only deepened. But the true breaking point came when Robyn herself admitted the truth. This wasn't the dream she'd envisioned. She had fought so hard to create an image of a perfect, harmonious family, a vision where monogamy would finally bring the peace they'd all been craving. But instead, she was left with the harsh reality of loneliness, isolation, and growing discontent. The cost of control was too high, and the safety she had once believed monogamy would bring was nothing more than an illusion. This admission was a sobering one, not just for Robyn, but for all of us watching. It was a painful reminder of the dangers of holding on to something too tightly, the illusion of safety that monogamy promises, and the emotional cost of trying to control something that's meant to be about love and connection. This family's drama is far from over, so smash like if you're Larn Team Wives, subscribe for the next explosive update, and drop a comment below. Who do you think will win? Stay shady, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next scandal. Unreal Tea out.